Your choice of harness, the width of the chest strap, your flying position and weight distribution all have a major impact on the safety and handling of your glider. If wrong, any one of these factors can lift it a grade above the published results. If they're all non-standard, you have a very different glider from the one the manufacturers lovingly designed. For this reason, the test centres always use the same classic harness consistently and bring objectivity to all their data.
We have 3 settings for the harness during certification. For the very light pilot, the distance between risers is 38 cm, and after until 80 kilos is 42 cm, and over 80 kilos is 46 cm between risers. We investigate a lot about the harness setting, and what we discover, it's more tight is it, more the glider can stay in neutrality spiral, and more wide is it, you can have effect on the asymmetric collapse, or the glider can have a worse behavior in asymmetric collapse, for example.
With an asymmetric tuck, if you widen the harness just 5 centimeters and do the same deflation, a category A glider can turn into category B glider because of the violent turn and the rate at which it descends, and the leading edge dives because of the huge amount of weight shift being tipped into the maneuver. This becomes more pronounced on a performance glider. As a medium-sized kind of bloke, I fly with chest strap at about 42 centimeters. But here's what happens when you go rogue. If I go very wide, way more than 42, I'll change the characteristics, make me weight shift into a deflation, roll faster and harder. Now, I will demonstrate that. So I'm gonna just keep it separate. I'm gonna do an asymmetric collapse. And we know that this glider goes around and pretty much comes out after 360, but I'm going to deflate it, lean in, and you'll see how much faster it is. Okay, so deflation in, okay, I'm leaning in, and it's going around, it's continuing round, and eventually it's coming out. So that came out after sort of 2 rotations, because all my weight has fallen into that. It's making it more aggressive, the turn, it's keeping me in. Whereas if I have it at 42, okay, I'll go again. So that's about right, 42. I'll do the same deflation, lean in, and you'll see the difference. Ready? So deflation, I'm leaning in, okay, I'm going round, and it's pulling out at 180 degrees, okay? And so that shows a big difference. So the difference in your harness shows the different characteristics. It's good to have it wide because you feel it more and you're more responsive, but if you have a problem, obviously, you've got to make sure you weight shift away from the problem and deal with it. You just have to know what your limits are. But the general rule is 42 centimeters. That's comfortable. That's what it's generally tested at. If you're a bigger person with a bigger harness, that goes bigger. If you're smaller, that goes smaller. But generally 42. And you can see the difference. It's amazing that it makes it go up a level. Harnesses are very personal, and it's important that you get what's comfortable for you and feels right. But what feels like a little niggle half an hour into a flight will probably be a very uncomfortable cause for you landing after about 3 hours. So make sure if you've got something that is not quite right, sort it out before you do a long flight.
In testing, we should take care about the position of the pilot in a harness, because if you are a little bit more straight, or if you lay a little bit, you can change the behavior of the glider.
If you're too supine and you have problems, you yaw around the place all the time, and that causing twists in your risers.
If you have the straight body like this, or even not extreme like a pod, but just little laying, more laying, you will change the behavior of the glider. For example, when you have in a pod harness, you have more twist tendency, because we cannot stabilize with the plate in a harness by your balance.
Here are our Australian buddies doing SIV in race harnesses. Flying fast in a pod harness is easy to get twisted, even doing basic manoeuvres. The inertia of the pilot's body spread out horizontally makes it much slower to catch up if the glider's turning suddenly.
Again, big ears, go, but try not to roll into the turn.
And when the glider stops, the body mass keeps going unless the pilot shows great skill and stops it. I myself fly with a race harness and I love it. You feel great and very secure, warmly wrapped and gliding efficiently, but you do lose that sort of sixth sense of the wind in your leg hairs. So be careful. They're fantastic harnesses, but they do have their vices, and it's important that you fly within their flying envelope and sit up and control the wing if you do have a collapse, spin or stall. Flying with a stirrup harness is very similar to flying with a pod harness in that your feet are out front and you have your instability. So if you do have a deflation, you've got to come off the stirrup and sit up and weight shift away from it and control the glider. I asked Alan what he thought of pod harnesses.
We don't have so much experience with that for certification because we don't use that for certification and we take the normal position. But we can see, and for sure we test different harnesses as well in different positions. It's not really objective.
During a stall, it's made much worse if the pilot's body is being thrown around. So it's important to make sure the pilot is sitting up and in control of the wing and able to follow it and steer it through all the maneuvers.
More wide is it, the stall will be more uncomfortable for the pilot because he will lose the balance, or he will lose the weight shift in the harness. That means suddenly he can fall in a side and he can disturb the geometry of the full stall.
You can see here, I've got about 42 centimeters separation, but even that, you can see the difference in height between the melons as I rock from side to side. Imagine that if it was really loose. It really does aggravate the stall and accelerate the problem. Here's a pilot searching for stall with a wide harness setting. As the glider goes negative, it gets rolled from one side to the other. And the risers are pulled together and twist up. You can see here, one melon is way below the other, locks into the twist, and the two risers are effectively one, which only allows the canopy to twist up even more. Which leads us neatly on to the next subject, twists.